Shortly before each and every new season begins, it's pretty typical and almost expected for at least a few players to announce their retirement. And with several adjustments happening on every roster this offseason, there's definitely going to be those select few players that end up being phased out of the league entirely. Players that have been around, seen it all, and most likely have the hardware to prove it. In this video, I'm going to go over a handful of goalies that could be hanging up the pads for good prior to next season. And with that, here are 5 NHL goalies who should probably just retire. After having a season he'd rather forget, Jimmy Howard is for sure moving on from the Red Wings. At 36 years of age, Howard has spent his entire NHL career thus far in the Motor City. While doing so, the netminder became a staple within the organization, as he's currently 3rd in all-time games played with 543 and in wins with 246 among all franchise goaltenders. But after over a decade spent in the crease for the Wings, the wear and tear has begun to present itself as far as Howard is concerned, and even though he's indicated that he's more than willing to remain in the game for another season or so, the question remains, will he find a suitor? As several masked men will be on the market this offseason, is there going to be a team that will give Howard the ultimate redemption that he's looking for? After finishing with the worst numbers of his career, with a .882 save percentage and a 4.20 goals against average, as much as we'd love for this potential Cinderella story to happen, Howard may find himself forced to retire as a Red Wing after all. With recent news indicating with 100% certainty that Anderson won't return between the pipes as a Senator again, many questions are surrounding the netminder on his plans moving forward. Following around a decade spent playing in Canada's capital, Andy will always be fondly remembered for leading his team to the conference finals in 2017, with his wife being his main inspiration. Regardless, the 39-year-old who is a pending UFA will have to make a tough decision regarding his career. But if Anderson does want a chance to play for a winning team and contend for a Stanley Cup as a backup, will he be able to find a team looking for his services, is the question, as his age could be a deterrent for most teams, but also, unfortunately, his numbers last season as well, as number 41 sported a losing record last season along with mediocre numbers. Granted, his team in front of him wasn't the greatest. Taking all of this into account, retirement might be the best option for Andy in the end. Things in the crease in Edmonton as of late remain up in the air, as many rumors have been circulating around Mikko Koskinen, the other Oiler in that, is probably done in oil country as well. As the Edmonton Oilers faced another devastating letdown in the postseason, several players appear to be expendable. With that being said, at 38 years of age, Mike Smith's time in the NHL could be shortly coming to a close. After being drafted close to 2 decades ago, Smith has more recently anyways, been a journeyman out west, as number 41 has found himself playing for 3 different Western teams in 3 years' time. Known as a fiery force in net, Smith humorously had a tendency to let his opponents have it within the blue paint. Regardless, the countless tendies that will be made available this offseason, Smith might very well find himself on the outside looking in upon free agency. At 40 years of age, Ryan Miller has helped pave the way for US-born netminders by far. As a Michigan native following close to 2 decades spent in the league, holds the record for the most wins by an American goaltender. But after receiving several accolades and recognition over the years, Miller, who was Anaheim's backup last season, will be a UFA this free agency. Although he hasn't officially hung up the skates yet, Miller did indicate in May that the pause in play and present pandemic circumstances could force his hand entirely. With the play unevenly split between number 30 in favor of starter Gibson last season, Miller ended last season with a .907 save percentage and a 3.10 goals against average. Although, if he does move on from the crease, Miller, with an illustrious career, definitely has nothing to hang his head about. Last season, Rinne dazzled the hockey world with his goalie goal during the matchup against the Chicago Blackhawks. But as the Predators' postseason was cut short, it was hard not to wonder if we would see Rinne return for his final contract season, as it was evidently clear who the Preds' number 1 tendy was going into the bubble. Rene, who has been evidently seceded by UC Saros, played fewer games than his fellow countrymen. At 37 years of age, the 2018 Vezina recipient didn't have the season that he hoped for last campaign, as he finished with the worst goals against average and save percentage of his career, with a 3.38 and a .895. With 1 year remaining on his current deal, if Rene did decide to turn the page for good, there's no doubt he'll go down as a franchise best in the Music City.